Hello and welcome to Too Many Movies, the podcast where we discuss DVDs, Blu-rays, and even the occasional VHS tape. I'm your host, Hal, and today's a big boy of an episode. I got two returning guests. James, William, make yourselves heard so it doesn't sound like I'm talking to myself.
No, fuck you.
Nah,
okay.
I don't feel like it.
Oh, great. Welcome back, boys. This is both your second episode on the podcast. How does it feel?
Pretty epic.
I feel like $1,000,000. You could say it's groovy.
Ooh.
You could say that, indeed.
I don't say that, but that's just because I'm different. Anyway, good reference there, William. Let's talk about a groovy movie. One of the movies we're talking about today
Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders. That's a groovy movie.
Woo!
Shit, wrong. Oh, fuck, I watched the wrong movie. I watched The Evil Dead instead.
Oh, shit, so did
man.
Oh, man.
Me too. How did we all make that mistake?
I guess we gotta talk about that then.
Let's just make this an Evil Dead episode, I guess.
Okay.
Why not just talk about all three of them?
Yeah, why not? The first Evil Dead is the only one where he doesn't say groovy, though. Man.
Oh.
SMH.
We're off to a great start.
Can't even watch the right Evil Dead movie.
Yeah.
Man.
In any case, we all watched The Evil Dead, 1981. The Evil Dead. This is not the 2013 Evil Dead. We're not talking about that. No, we're not talking about that. So we're talking about The Evil Dead, one of Sam Raimi's first movies. For those of you who don't know, click off this episode and go watch it. But anyway, for all of you who do know, as you know, it's a movie about a bunch of college kids who go to a cabin. They find a book, release a couple demons, and hijinks ensue. William, what was your experience with The Evil Dead? How did you discover it?
Just like when you look into like horror stuff, you like obviously like in terms of the 80s, you usually get like a lot of the slasher stuff first. Like you see Freddy, you see Jason, you see Michael Leatherface, which technically was the 70s, but you know the usuals. You go then you go like just a little bit deeper under there. That's when you see like Evil Dead and some like Hellraiser and some of the other still popular but not quite as popular ones. Like mostly because like Evil Dead isn't really a slasher at all anyway. But like he usually gets included in like the big horror icons.
Yeah, that's definitely true. James, what was your introduction to Evil Dead?
Honestly, it was because William gave me all three of the movies for our podcast, ShinyCast. But
And
then
then
we
we
ended
got
up,
bored.
we didn't talk about, we didn't do a ShinyCast for like months after I watched the movies, so we forgot to include them.
So then I said, fuck it, we'll just talk to Hal and do it on his instead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad we're doing it because I freaking love the Evil Dead trilogy. So, like, I really do appreciate that I get to talk about them. So, I can't really remember the first time I watched The Evil Dead. I was probably about 17 or 18, just because I remember seeing them around on the internet, just people talking about how awesome they are. And I was like, oh, I got to watch more movies. So, like, I think in one weekend I saw the entire trilogy and I was instantly hooked. So much so that one day I bought all of them on DVD. And obviously I've kind of upgraded with some of these movies, but I still have the same Evil Dead DVD that I bought. I can't remember when or where. It might have been at my local shop, might have been at Target. I don't know, but I have it on this simple DVD from like 2009. It looks pretty good on DVD, honestly, even though it could look nicer on 4K Blu-ray, but there's a reason I don't have it on Blu-ray. William, do you want to explain why?
From what I can understand is that as the years went on, when they were doing the restorations, they tweaked some of the effects to make it a little more professional. So, like, they edited out, like, a guy who was just standing at the side of the scene for one time. They fixed one of the matte paintings for the moon. Because the movie, like, just, like, go into, like, production briefly, like, we'll get more into this. Sam Raimi was 20 years old when he made this film. He was doing this, like, in breaks in school. They had, like, a grand total, like, $80,000 to make this thing. So, like, they were only did short films before this that were comedies. They didn't really have the feature film experience, so they were still learning. So, like, there's a lot of rough stuff originally. And since the movie now has reputation and there's more money put behind it, they special editioned it a little. I don't think it's as egregious as like those, because like in those, like importing like entire other scenes, entire dialogue. This is they just we changed the map painting to look like the actual moon.
Yeah, and I mean that moon, like that's one of my favorite aspects of the movie is the fact that the moon is so obviously edited in post-production because it's like clipping over the trees. Like I love that. That's awesome. And you can obviously see like the tubes spewing blood out of like I think it was one of the Cheryl fake Shemps, like when she gets shot in the face, like you can see the tube like spewing blood out of her cheek. It's like, yeah, I love that. That's why I love this movie, is because it's so just stitched together. Just like I'm not in it for the story at all. Like I don't know about you guys, the story is quite basic in this movie. Yeah, I think we can all agree
absolutely.
There. I mean, it's basic in all three of them, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. But that's because The Evil Dead is not about its story. Like, what's the main draw of it? It's like there's a book and it was written in blood, and every time you speak in it, demons. It's like, okay, like that's as basic as they come.
It's kind of like a road trip without the trip. You're just getting all these obstacles thrown at you, and you're just trying to survive the night.
Yeah, like absolutely. Like I think the biggest appeal of the first Evil Dead movie is just how low budget it is, and how they were able to make something that's actually like legitimately scary out of it. In like even though they had so many limitations, like I'm still just insanely impressed with like how terrifying it still manages to be in spite of how obviously low budget it is. And like the blood effects, like the stop motion effects are incredible, like towards the end, like the claymation and the makeup, like so many technical aspects of this movie just astound me, considering how, again, Raimi was 20 when he made this. It's just and they didn't have much money at all. It was just some friends like making a movie together, and like it looks this good.
You want me to tell you how they got the money to make the movie?
How?
So basically, what they did, Sam Raimi, Bruce Campbell, I think like the other guy, I forget the name, basically just straight up called as many people as they knew that had like expendable funds that like were business owners and stuff, and that could potentially invest, and showed them a short film called, I think it was like, it was not A Night in the Woods, but like The Wind in the Woods or something. Do you remember what the name of that was?
No. Is it like Raimi's like first short film or something?
It was like it was like kind of like a pilot, kind of like, this is the kind of movie we're going to be making. So they would show them that short to say, hey, here's what we're kind of trying to make. You want to invest in this so that we can make a movie? And they just did that to like
Within the Woods?
Yeah, Within the Woods.
Within the Woods, yeah. Okay. So yeah, it was nice. Like, yeah, it's like a half hour long. Yeah, okay. I still should watch that. Yeah, they just like it's probably not good, but you know,
it's Evil Dead. It's the prototype Evil Dead.
Yeah,
like apparently, like Bruce Campbell even said, like, yeah, at one point we went to like a grocery store after hours, like the people who were stocking the store, and showed them the rough cut of that, and said, hey, you guys want to invest? They did that to like everybody they could, and they got like $85,000 out of it, and shot this thing. The original production was gonna be like 6 weeks of shooting over in like December, and it went over schedule and over budget really quickly. Basically, like you know the reason why the movie basically just turns into the ass show at the end, because everyone fucking left,
except for Bruce Campbell.
Yeah. Like we mentioned the term fake shemp earlier. Do you want to, James? Do you know what a fake shemp is?
No, I do not.
Basically, have you ever noticed there were like scenes where like you would only see like the back of a character, or like only like their arms or anything? Mm-hmm. Basically, people left the production and weren't there for some reshoots and scenes they needed them. So you know what you do? You know what you do for that? You just grab another guy, have them put on their costume, and film them from the back.
Yep, there you go.
A lot of characters. Even like Sam Raimi himself did some of that stuff, because like I know there's a shot where Scotty, the other guy character, is like trying to find Shelly, and there's a scene where like his hand goes in front of like a shower curtain to like pull it back. That arm is Sam Raimi's. Like it's not the actual actor's, but like it's edited in a way where it looks like it is his arm pulling the shower curtain back.
Yeah. The production for the film was kind of a mess, if you could believe it.
Whoa.
It's almost like it was just a bunch of
Crazy.
college students.
Yeah. I mean, even with its like shoestring budget and the fact that it like you hear the horror stories behind the scenes of how it just came together, like it still looks like it came together relatively well.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Because it's just a very simple movie.
Right, exactly.
You just gotta get clever about how you film it. Like the iconic Evil Dead camera that's like the famous POV shot just of like the spirits rushing for the woods. You just take,
that's awesome.
You
That's
take the
such a
camera,
creative
you
choice.
mount it to a board, and you just have some guy run with it. And it looks better than just holding the camera raw, because like then the camera's gonna feel every individual movement of your hands. You mount it to a board, there's more resistance. It looks a lot cleaner.
Right.
You just gotta get clever how you film it. All the stuff with the trees, it's just a simple reverse photography. You just film them the other way around. Like instead of the plants rushing towards someone, you just film them, actually take them off, but then you just reverse the footage so it looks like they're getting entangled.
Yeah,
Right.
there's a lot of like excellent technique for like a college kid just starting out. Like you can see Sam Raimi's like natural talents even this early on in his career. It's really cool.
One of the things I like with low budget is that like you have to actually solve the problems. You don't have the money to do everything possible, so you got to figure out a workaround. You got to get creative with how you do it.
And it also like even though he's like discovering like ways of being creative, like he in turn is like creating the style that he would go on to use in like his actual high budget stuff like Spider-Man and stuff like that. And also the kind of style that makes Evil Dead what it actually is. Because I've realized this while watching these movies. Without Sam Raimi, there is no Evil Dead. Like you can't really call it Evil Dead if Sam Raimi's not involved in some way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because like it's a lot of it is just Bruce Campbell being like this weirdo just fighting these demons, but like it's also the camera angles, it's also the amount of blood, the puppetry and stop motion that looks like puppetry and stop motion, but that's where the charm comes from. Like that's what makes it so much like the Evil Dead. That's what makes it pretty much the Evil Dead. Like that's how you would describe it.
It also helps because, like, even when they're still just puppets and stuff, at least it's something that's actually on screen.
Exactly. That's a lot of help.
The worst practical effects will always look better than the worst CG.
Exactly.
Why
Yeah.
does the Jim Carrey Grinch look better than the cats in the 2019 movie? Because at least the Jim Carrey Grinch was a costume that was in front of the camera.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it.
At least Cat in the Hat was still Mike Myers in a costume. That costume actually existed.
Exactly.
None of the shit in Cats was actually there.
No.
No, but that's true. Like, as funny as it is to compare those two movies, but it's true. Like, I'd rather see stuff that's actually there. Like, the blood effects in this movie. I mean, I don't even know if I would describe it as even just purely blood effects. Like, one of my favorite aspects is whenever the demons are, like, getting, like, hit, and they'll just have random liquids. Like, it's not even just red. Like, at one point,
There's
Linda,
black,
when
there's
she's a demon,
green.
she just spits out milk, it looks like. It's like, that's so gross.
It
but
is,
like
yeah,
but that's so gross. But that's awesome. I'm glad that it's not
fits
just
so
red.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, like the black ooze is nice. The green gook that comes out of one of them, it's like, why is it green now? Well, they ran out of red.
Yeah, well, when Scotty's like deteriorating as a demon, like at the very end, like, and he's just turning into like this green and yellow mush. It's like so disgusting, but like it looks more gross than if it was just red. Like it adds like a unique style to the way that they're just deteriorating. It's awesome.
Yeah, like the stop motion effects there are just so like strong. Like even though like a lot of them like don't look realistic, but they still look unnatural and creepy, and that's what I like love about it. Like
Which it should,
I love
'cause
how
it's
creepy
supposed
old
to be
timey
natural.
stop motion looks.
Exactly.
But yeah,
yeah.
it fits the movie and its tone so well.
Because these are
so
demons
great.
from another world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do not belong here, and they look like they don't belong here. And yeah, some of the makeup isn't as good as others. Like Linda's makeup at one point just kind of looks like clown makeup. But then you have like the other demons, which look great.
Yeah, exactly. One of my favorite props in this movie specifically, is the Book of the Dead, like the Necronomicon itself. Like, it actually looks like dead skin is covering the book. Like, it actually looks really, really thrown together, and that kind of adds to it. Like, it just looks really creepy. Like, you'd find that in some cabin in the woods, and you'd just be creeped out.
Yeah.
Also, fun fact, the cabin that they were filming at did not actually have a cellar. So they just dug a hole in the middle of the cabin and just put people in there. And then whenever they filmed scenes in in the cellar, it's like some guy's basement in like Michigan, like, miles away from where the cabin actually is.
Well, even go into the cabin, that wasn't even where they were supposed to film the movie at first. That the original location they wanted to got booked out or something ahead of time, and they just weren't able to use it, so they got an even dingier cabin as a last resort, which didn't even have like heating or electricity. Reminder, they filmed this movie in December and January.
Yeah, so it was like really, really cold. I mean, I prefer the cabin in this movie because it genuinely looks like they just happened upon it like in the middle of the woods. Like, it doesn't look like... And that's kind of a criticism I have later on for Evil Dead 2. Like, the cabin in that movie feels like a movie set, which doesn't really work against the movie. It's just something I noticed. Whereas, like, here in this movie, the cabin feels like they're actually filming in some cabin.
Yeah.
To skip ahead a little bit, Evil Dead 2 is basically Evil Dead 1 with a budget, but also in reverse.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. Don't
We'll get to that later.
Exactly. Well, I mean, do we have anything else we want to talk about with this first movie?
Probably. I just need to think of what I want to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess fine. I'll say that, like, I like this one fine. Not as much as the other two, though, and, like, not by a long shot. Like, I still think this one's really good. Like, the effects are excellent and everything, and it's actually scary, but, like, I just don't really care about, like, Ash's friends, or, like, I'm not invested in any of them. I'm not really invested in Ash yet, either. Like, the movie doesn't really have, like, characterization for them. That's kind of what holds it back a little bit for me compared to Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. But that's just me. Like, I that's one of the reasons I like the other two better. But this one's still very good.
No, I definitely agree, because I remember when I first watched The Evil Dead, because I remember thinking, like, oh, I've heard that Ash is, like, the guy with the chainsaw. And, like, in this movie, he boots up a chainsaw but then never uses it. So I was like, what the hell? Like, I was lied to.
Yeah, he's very normal in this movie compared to the next two, where he just goes wild.
Like, to get into it, it's like, there really isn't a main character until the end anyway. Why does Ash become the main character? Because he's the only one that stuck around long enough because he was best friends with Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
Right.
Because, like, you watch this in a vacuum without any knowledge, you probably would be forgiven for thinking that Scott's the main character, because he's the one that's driving them there and everything. But then, obviously, as production moves along, Scott has to die, and then leaving, Bruce becomes the main focus.
Well, it's interesting because you say that, like, Scott might have been the one to survive because he's the main character, or, like, any number of the girl characters, because, they could have been one of the final girls, which is, like, a trope in horror movies where, like, the last remaining character is, like, one of the girls. And, like,
19 times out of 20, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, with all that thinking, like, Bruce or Ash is pretty much the one who would have probably died first, but he's the only one who stuck around, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
There's also the iconic trope of Ash always fucking up in having a terrible ending, because in the first movie, he survives till morning, great. Then you remember, oh wait, we still saw the demons fucking around in daylight.
Yeah, so
one
it
just
didn't
catches
matter.
him at the end anyway.
Yeah,
so
that's a great final shot of just having it run through the cabin and then go up to Bruce Campbell, and then it just cuts to black, and then just like the Three Stooges music starts playing. It's awesome. It's a great ending for the movie.
Yeah,
because it's like, oh well, I guess he does lose anyway, or does he? We don't know.
Ooh, find out next time.
Like we were saying with the Evil Dead Blu-ray releases, like their special edition versions, and I honestly, as much as I'd like to have a 4K of this movie, I'm keeping the DVD mostly out of necessity because I want the original version. I want the original dirty, disgusting, poorly made because it was made by a bunch of college kids. Like, that's the version I want. So that's the version I have on this DVD. So I'm keeping it. Do you guys own any physical copies of this movie at all?
James does not own them because, again, he borrowed mine for the podcast. I do just have, like, the standard Blu-ray releases. And, like, my stance are, like, those fixes to the movie don't really bother me as much because it's all just visual effects that, like, most of those are things you probably wouldn't even notice unless you were told about them. Like, I wouldn't have noticed that there was just a guy standing at the frame of the film until someone would have pointed it out to me. It's not,
right.
And, like, granted, for preservation's sake, I think they should at least make those original versions available. And if this was like an Arrow release or a Shout release, they absolutely would have kept that on there. But since this is like Lionsgate Studio Canal, they're only going to do like what they view as the ultimate version.
Oh, Lionsgate. When will you have your win? Oh, wait, they made CIA. Never mind.
They did that Pinocchio movie, remember? They got their win.
Oh my god, they just keep hitting the fucking home
when
runs.
When can I go out on my own? Iconic.
So, like, those changes don't bother me that much, but for the sake of preservation, you should at least give us the option. And, like, famously, there's, like, a Bruce Campbell commentary for the first movie, where he was also, like, telling jokes the whole time and pointing out some of those flaws. And, like, in the restorations, because they made those changes, those don't apply anymore, so they have to omit that commentary track.
Yeah, no, I need to watch that commentary track. It's on this DVD, so that's why I'm definitely keeping it then.
So, like, I would wish that they would, like, do a version that has every version of it, like, the actual ultimate version. For now, I think it's fine enough. It's just, preservation's sake, you should still have that available.
Right.
Yeah.
I should note that, like, I have that 4K Steelbook set that was released a couple years ago that has Evil Dead 1 and 2 in it. And the Blu-ray is in that set because it has both the 4K and the Blu-ray. I don't have a way to watch 4Ks yet, so I mostly just have it for that to have them in the same thing. They are just straight up the reissued Blu-rays from 2009 because, like, they still have, like, trailers in front of them for movies that came out in 2009.
Oh my god.
So only the 4K discs are actually new. And I noticed that there's, like, a bonus feature for, like, the second movie, I think, that's only on the 4K disc because of that. So this is just weird to think about. Because normally all the bonus features are still just on the Blu-rays, because, like, the 4Ks, you want to have as much room as possible for the best quality film. Yeah. Because that's all that the disc upgrades really are, is just storage space.
Yeah, no, I remember you telling me that, how, like, yeah, because they don't include the special features at all.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, granted, it's a much bigger file, so I get it.
Yeah,
but,
like, why does Blu-ray look better than DVD? Because DVD is 4.7 gigabytes, Blu-ray is like 25.
That's a pretty big difference.
That's also why DVD menus suck nowadays, because those fancy menus we all love took up a lot of space on the disc, so the movie looks worse. And especially now that we're in the HD digital age, that's going to be more noticeable if it's more pixelated on the DVD, so they have to omit as much as possible. That's also why they had a lot of, like, the bonus features like second discs, because for that exact reason.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
My childhood is being explained.
Plus,
now it all makes sense.
Plus, like, DVDs are so little to make nowadays that, like, companies just don't want to put any effort. DVDs are pure profit, so they're just like, we'll make a DVD for like $20 and we'll make like $19 profit. So that's why they're, like, so bare bones.
Yeah. No, that definitely makes sense.
Like, I think, like, I don't know how much storage space 4Ks are, but I think it's also, like, double what a Blu-ray is. That's also why they're much more expensive, and why you don't see too many, as many things coming out on 4K, because, like, it just costs so much more to do those scans and restorations, and the install base is just so much smaller right now. It's also why you don't see too many TV shows on Blu-ray or 4K, because it's one thing to do an HD scan of a movie, because that's just one movie. A TV show, that's like
multiple episodes.
50 goddamn episodes or more.
Yeah.
That's why you only get an Ed and Eddie complete series on DVD and not Blu-ray, because that is way too much work to do for Blu-ray. And I don't think you want to pay like $80 for Ed and Eddie on Blu-ray. I think you just want to pay the $40 for the DVD set.
Damn, the life of a physical copy owner.
That was the ultimate experience in grueling terror. So I guess we should talk about the sequel to the ultimate experience in grueling terror.
The ultimate experience.
I love that. That's the tagline for it on Letterboxd.
It was on the back of the DVD too. I used to have, And
Yeah,
like if you
well-
stay all the way through the credits of both for all three movies, they'll have like that tagline at the end: "The ultimate experience in
do.
grueling terror," the sequel to the ultimate experience in grueling terror, the ultimate experience in medieval horror.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so as established, we've moved on to Evil Dead 2. I have it on a nice Blu-ray from like, I don't know, 2007.
You probably have like, the same one we do.
Yeah, well, I like the cover art for this because it's all like hand drawn and
It's like Ash with like the boomstick and the chainsaw.
yeah, and then like there's just some random lady in a purple shirt like making a scary face. It's like, who is that lady? I will say, who was the lady in the first Evil Dead poster? And in like the standard Evil Dead 2 poster, who's the skull with the eyes? Like, who are these people?
I think the lady is supposed to be Linda in the first one.
It might
she
be.
gets like buried, and I think the skeleton is just because the skeleton is like to illustrate 2 points. One, that there's more demons and deadites, and two, it looks kind of goofy because the progression
Evil Dead 2
of the
is very
series.
goofy.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
you have Evil Dead 1, which is just a straight horror movie. You have Evil Dead 2, which is a horror movie with heavy comedic elements. And then you have Army of Darkness, which is an action movie with horror elements.
Yeah, like that's one thing I really like about the Evil Dead trilogy is just how different each movie is in terms of genre and like subgenres, but I think each one of them pulls it off pretty well. So Evil Dead 2, yeah, I think is the one that definitely balances the horror and comedy elements the best, just because so like we said, it's pretty much just a remake of the first movie. Like, it's not a direct sequel. Like, you don't see what happens to Ash after what happens in the first movie.
Well, you kind of do.
Yeah, okay,
they
so yeah,
follow
it
up on
is
that last shot from the first movie.
It is interesting, yeah. So it's pretty much the first one. It's kind of like a remake, but it's still called Evil Dead 2.
The first 5 minutes is just speed running the first movie, but like without the 3 other people. It's just him and Linda.
That's kind of the thing with the movies, too. Like, all of them, there's sequels and work chronologically with each other, but they're also very self-contained. You can watch one in a vacuum and still know what's going on completely.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, I kind of like that, how all the movies like don't line up perfectly with their endings to like the beginning of the next one. Like, I don't know. It just makes you feel like more... It feels more unnatural and like, I don't know, subtly horrific. I don't know how to describe it.
It also
it feels like each movie is like an evolution of itself. Like Evil Dead 2 is kind of, because it's like 6 or 7 years after the first one. Like, Sam Raimi had directed a movie between these two. I can't remember what it's called. I think it was like Crime Wave or something like that. I haven't seen it, but he directed another movie, so now he's like reapplying what he's learned from directing 2 movies and putting it into his third movie, and pretty much just remaking his first movie, but with the knowledge that he's kind of taken over the years. And you can definitely tell, like, he's obviously kept the weird angles, the moving cameras and stuff like that, and the excessive gore, but he's also kind of tuned a little with some of the stuff that wasn't that great in the first movie.
Yeah. Like I said before, it's the first movie in reverse with an actual budget this time.
I love the Ash hijinks in this one a lot more because I feel like it's a lot more like a Three Stooges cartoon, because you have him just like beating himself up. He's fighting his hand. He just like chainsaws it off, and then it still becomes a villain because it's just like grabbing onto people. It comes back because it stabs Annie in the back.
Yeah,
like it was. Like,
oh my god.
Oh, it's so funny. And of course, the iconic shot of him like putting the hand under the bucket and then putting a stack of books on top of the bucket, and the top book just happens to be A Farewell to Arms.
I lost my shit when I saw that. That was incredible.
It's brilliant.
Oh
it's like,
God.
oh man, come on.
Yeah.
Sam.
Yeah, everything with the hand is so great. Like, just Bruce when he's like knocked out and the hand is just like clawing on the floor just to like to move his body. It's just, oh my god, just the way he acts with just the hand is incredible. Like, I feel like in this one, Sam like just knew what he had with Bruce Campbell and like how good of an actor he was. Like, comedically, and just he let him just run wild.
It's like
Yeah.
the entire first half of the movie is just Ash fucking around, and it's great.
It
Yeah,
is.
exactly.
Because you
So
see the
good.
other people going to the cabin, but they're taking their time getting there. Everything else is just Ash just trying to not die.
Yeah.
He gets turned
Yeah.
into a Deadeye himself and has to fight that back off. He gets his hand infected. He has all the other demons still running around. The famous laughing scene where everything in the room just starts fucking with him.
That laughing scene is easily one of my favorite scenes in the whole trilogy. Probably one of my favorite scenes in anything ever. Just like,
Yeah,
it's
so
so
good.
because it starts off really funny how like he just falls over and like the demons just all start laughing, and at this point in the movie like Ash has just had it up to here and he's just like he just like goes along like he's broken now. He just starts laughing with all of them and just messing around, and he's pretty much accepted the insanity, and that's awesome.
Yeah.
Is that before or after the stop motion dance sequence with Linda's body?
Oh,
I
yeah. Oh my
think
God.
it was after, because like the stop motion dancing scene was also really good because
Yeah.
it's done really well, but it's also kind of funny just watching the body of his dead girlfriend just dancing around, and
Yeah.
she looks like a Wallace and Gromit character.
Yeah,
Full
it's
titties
like
out.
what you said. It's the perfect like mix of horror and comedy, like the absolute perfect balance.
It's like,
so
it's
good.
beautiful, but it's also just straight up mocking him like, you tried to kill me, but you fucked up. And
Yeah,
So like,
exactly.
well, she's back. I don't know where she is, but she's back.
Yeah, when he has like the head like trapped down, and then the body comes in running in with the knife, like that was so good. Oh my God.
Chainsaw.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah, the body just, oh god, and then like the black goop is going everywhere.
Yeah. There's just
so
so
good.
many incredible moments in this one.
Yeah, I remember when I first watched this, and I was like not really a fan of the other characters because I'm like, who are these assholes? Like, why are they here?
Yeah.
But the longer they're there and the more stuff happens to them, I'm more just like, okay, this is actually really funny. Like, I always forget that the character of Annie has like that other doctor character with her because he's the first guy to die.
Yeah.
Like, I always
yeah.
forget he's in the movie, and then he just becomes a deadite and is just like killing people. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And then, like, Ash also returns into a Deadeye at one point, so they have to
Yeah.
stop him for real.
And then what was it? It was like, oh well, like the mother being
Henrietta.
like the first deadite. Yeah, Henrietta, just like, I buried her in my cellar, and she just pops out and stop motiony. It's awesome.
yeah.
It's like a reverse of the events of the first movie, because, like, they're hitting those same beats, but just now in a new order. And this
Yeah.
time, like, to throw the twist in, Ash is now trapped there in the cellar with her.
And I know, so it's two different actors playing Henrietta. So it's obviously there's the woman, the old woman who plays her when she's actually the old woman. But then when she's a deadite, that's Ted Raimi. So the what is it, Hoffman in the Spider-Man movies.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so
Oh, yeah,
he's like
Sam
the one in
Raimi's
like this
brother.
fat suit. Yeah.
Yeah.
And something that I like to just overall in this series as a whole, it's like both funny but also works, is just Ash's transition from just some guy to a full-on action hero. It's because it happens
Exactly.
over the course of 3 movies, so like it's organic and it makes sense. But then you also think about it for a little bit and you realize all of this happened over the course of 2 goddamn days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, when Ash is actually like making jokes and just like, and I mean this is a testament to like the third movie, so we'll get to that, but like when he's actually that, like, he's a lot more fun when he's like more of a dick and more of like, because like, I mean, he's been dealing with these people for like 2 goddamn days, so like it makes sense that like he would just be kind of an asshole. He's just like, I'm sick of these demons fucking with me.
Yeah.
Swallow
And
this.
you can see how more like capable and smart he's becoming with dealing with them. Like when the one girl's like mother is like, you know, not in her demon form. She's like, please let me out, and he just like puts his hand on her shoulder. He just shakes his head no. Like he knows these demons' tricks now. He's just not dealing with this shit. It's like interesting to see how capable he is now. How he's not gonna fall for this shit again.
Yeah, it's good character growth from a movie that is not canon to this movie anymore, but it makes sense.
I think it's re-canoned now.
Re-canon. Okay.
Because to get into that, the rights for the movies are kind of a little all over the place. Army of Darkness is owned by Sony, no, Universal, I think, right?
Universal.
Universal, whereas the others like Studio Canal.
Yeah, which is a shame. But I mean, when you start off in low budget, like it's inevitable. Like different. I mean, that's what happened to Marvel for a while. Like back in the 90s, they went bankrupt, and like the way they kept afloat was they sold the rights to different heroes to different studios, and that's why for years Spider-Man was owned by Sony, and the rest of the characters were all owned by Paramount and Disney, and then
that's why there's randomly a Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie, which, if you can believe it, is apparently the best Fantastic Four movie.
Whoa.
Well, after seeing the other three, sure, why not?
And the best part is that movie was only made as a tax write-off. It was never intended to be released at all.
Oh, so they're still doing this to this day.
Oh, this was back in the 90s.
In any case, I feel like for years I've kind of loved the first Evil Dead just because I really love it for how it came together, and I really respect it, and so like I just always preferred it. But I feel like the more times I watch 2, I think Evil Dead 2 is definitely my favorite of the trilogy, just because it is the first movie more fully realized, and I just feel like I'm laughing a lot more intentionally in this movie. Whereas, like, the first one, I still love it because it's an important movie in my eyes, and I love it wholeheartedly, but it is... a lot of my love for it is more so out of respect, whereas Evil Dead 2, I watch and I unironically enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's, I think, that is the general reaction, because Evil Dead 2 is also my favorite of the three. Another thing I just noticed in general is just, like, there's also a lot more of a focus on, like, the actual Deadites from this point on, because in the first movie, a lot of the effects were actually just the trees. We didn't really talk about them as much, but, like, most of the stuff fucking with them is those trees, and they come back in this movie for like the end climax is the giant tree monster, which looks amazing,
incredible, from a practical effects standpoint.
Yeah, it's just like this giant puppet. It's awesome.
But you're also getting more of the actual. James, you finish first.
Yeah, on rewatch, I definitely liked Evil Dead 2 a lot more. Like, I think the first time I saw it, like you said, Hal, I was kind of like, I don't care for these other people. I liked it better when it was just Bruce on his own, but like. Honestly, watching it again this time, like, I like what they do with these other characters, and, like, I love the overall how everything, like, connects to each other and everything, how it all wraps up. It's just, like, this is definitely, like, incredible. I'm gonna go against the grain, though, and say, go against the popular grain, not just the two of you, and say the third one is my favorite, which we'll get to, but this one is pretty close behind. Like, they're almost equal in my eyes on this rewatch. Like,
well, I say general consensus, but that doesn't mean that there aren't people who prefer Army of Darkness. It's more a matter of, what do you like more, horror or action?
Yeah,
generally, if you like action more, Army of Darkness is going to be your bag. And most people love all three. It's just a matter of what the favorite one is.
Yeah, exactly.
So I used to be Team Evil Dead. I'm Team 2 now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like how you were saying, William, like with John Carpenter movies, like when it comes to either horror or action, like some people prefer Halloween and The Thing, some people prefer Big Trouble in Little China. So
I don't remember what I said in that episode because it's been a couple months, but
okay.
Something like
that.
That's
what you definitely said that. I have proof.
I'm sure you have the receipts on this very channel. Go check that episode out, I guess. We talk about the movie where Elvis swallows a microphone for 2 seconds.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay.
Which is a real thing that happened in real life.
Yeah. No, I remember.
He did that shit, for real. You know who else swallowed something in this movie? I think it was like the other girl swallowed an eyeball after
that shot was
Bobby
so
Joe.
good.
Bobby Joe swallowed an eye. And not only that, but Henrietta wanted to swallow
your soul.
Bruce Campbell's soul. Yeah, I'll swallow your soul. I'll swallow your soul.
Swallow
He's just
this.
Like, swallow this. Oh, it's so good. Swallow this and Groovy. Such good one-liners.
And they only use them the one time each.
I know, but that's what makes them special. Like the fact that you just use them once.
Absolutely.
Okay, did we have anything else we wanted to say about Evil Dead 2?
Again, like, there's some nice foreshadowing too when you get like the actual like description of the book itself. You see like you see the castle in the background and giving like the lore, and then at the end of the movie, inexplicably, Ash is transferred back in time, hey, guess what? You see the castle now.
Yeah.
Well, that. I really found that interesting watching it again. I'm like, oh, so they were like hinting towards Army of Darkness, even though Army of Darkness didn't come out until like 5 years after this movie. So
Yeah,
they gave
like
each one time.
they talk about
Yeah.
the hero in the book, and then Ash says like, whoever he is, he did a terrible job of like beating these guys, and then we find out it's him later.
It's him. He did a terrible job.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess a good thing to talk about here at the end would be the ending of this movie, since it leads into the next one. And just, like, this is the most batshit insane way for this movie to end.
The fact that it seemingly comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, there's this one Letterboxd review that says, like, I thought up 100 different possible endings to this movie, and I never would have predicted that this would be the one that how it ends.
Well, see, the funny thing about that is, like, when I was watching these movies for the first time, like, I knew Army of Darkness was coming after Evil Dead 2, so, like, I kind of knew that, like, he would end up in medieval times. But yeah, looking at it, like, from an objective standpoint, it's just like, oh yeah, like, nobody would have guessed he would have gone back in time to medieval times to get Deadites off the menu.
Yeah, along with his car.
Yeah.
That fucking car.
That's insane.
It's crazy.
Just the last shot too, where he's just like, no, just it's like, holy fuck, just give this guy a break after everything he went through in this movie.
The iconic trope of Ash having a bad ending.
Transported back to medieval times, like, that's insane. This movie is just off the wall, off the rails in the best possible way.
Yeah. So obviously, this Blu-ray I have, this Beyond High Definition Blu-ray, I'm keeping it. I love this cover art. I love the movie. It's a keeper.
So, Hal, where do you put Army of Darkness on your shelf? Do you put it in E for Evil Dead Free, or do you put it in A for Army?
So currently my collection is kind of all over the place, but when I do want to have stuff in alphabetical order, I think I used to put it in A, but really, as a film nerd, and because it's the third movie, I really would prefer just putting it with the other Evil Dead movies. So I think when I get it all organized, I think Army of Darkness is just going to stay with the Evil Dead movies.
That would be my answer, but I also have the first two movies in a steelbook, and I have the steelbooks in a separate place. So I kind of have to have it in A for Army right now, because it wouldn't make sense to put that in E.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, I mean, I have it on Steelbook because, so this year, was it Shout Factory did a 4K Steelbook for Army of Darkness, and I was like, you know what, I'm jumping on that. So I pre-ordered it. I got it like a week before was it a week? I don't know. It was definitely before it was going to be out on shelves, and I was really excited. I didn't end up watching it until like a couple days ago, but I had it before it was out in stores, and I got this sweet poster which is hanging up on my wall, which is just like the cover and back cover of the Steelbook just in a rectangle, and it looks awesome, dude. Like, the artwork is so good.
Yeah, Shout Factory always does that too with their releases. They usually, if you pre-order directly from them, you'll get it like 2 weeks early, and they usually have the limited edition posters. Like, I have several posters from Shout Factory that in like my attic, because they don't have room for them right now. Like, I have Kong 76, My Bloody Valentine, 2 different Friday the 13th ones. I think I have a poster for the 1960s Phantom of the Opera, because when I bought that one, I guess I bought it right after it just came out, so they still had extras. And this is before I was playing the video, because I just bought it separately on a whim, along with the 89 version, because it went back in stock. And like, oh, I guess I have a poster for this now.
I guess I have a poster for this now. So anyway, we've moved on to Army of Darkness. So I just want to double check. Which versions did you guys watch?
I just have this old Ultimate Screwhead Edition Blu-ray.
Okay.
I don't know what year it came from. It's just, it has from the director of Spider-Man and Drag Me to Hell.
Only those 2 movies.
Yep, nothing else.
I understand putting Drag Me to Hell on there, since that's a horror movie that Raimi did. But Spider-Man, that really...
At the very least, do Darkman.
Or like
at the very least.
Evil Dead.
That too.
True. Yeah, I just rented it off of YouTube Movies, so whatever version's on there is the one I watched.
I would assume the theatrical cut. What happened at the end of the one that you watched, James?
What ending did you
the
get?
alternate ending. No, the version I watched, he made it back to his own time.
Okay, yep, so I watched the theatrical cut too.
Yeah.
I didn't rewatch. I know what the alternate cut is. Ending. I know what it is. I've seen it before, but I didn't rewatch it for this. But yeah, again, Ash having a bad ending.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the interesting thing. So, even though like apparently like that's the ending people prefer, or like hardcore Evil Dead fans prefer the ending where he doesn't make it back, whereas me, I kind of do prefer the ending where he makes it back, because I feel like it's a good like way to end off the trilogy, just to be like, have him finally win at the end.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I like how he still screws up, like he didn't recite the words correctly, so there's like deadites at the hardware store. Like,
well, I didn't say every single syllable, but I basically said it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so like it's still him kind of screwing up, but like at least somewhat he gets kind of a happy ending. Hail to the king, baby.
Hail to the king, baby. Like, that's iconic. Like, I would not trade that ending scene for anything.
I don't prefer either over the other. It's just a matter of the way I see it. The S-Mart ending is the ending to Army of Darkness, whereas the post-apocalyptic future ending is the ending to Evil Dead 3.
Yeah,
that's the way I view it.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. But anyway, so James, you said this is your favorite of the trilogy. You want to elaborate?
Basically, this is just like so fun. Like, this is just a nonstop like thrill ride with so much like wacky comedy and like fun action. I think I also love this one so much because Ash is at his most entertaining in this one. Like, just all the one-liners, just seeing him like get transported to this world and being like, I don't give a shit about any of this, just get me home. And like all the one-liners he does, like, honey, you got real ugly. Oh my god, just I find him so entertaining. Like, Evil Dead 2, he was starting to become like a really fun central protagonist. I really loved him in that movie, but this one, it's on a whole nother level. Like, I just am was so engaged by his character in this one.
It's just a testament to how much Bruce Campbell himself has improved, because it's been a literal 10 years since the first movie at this point. So he just got so much more comfortable. The two have just more experience, so they can do a lot more.
Yeah, and overall, like, just the concept of this movie, like, this is the most committed to the bit I have ever seen a movie be. Like, it ends with him getting transported to medieval times, and like, yep, that's what the third movie is about. Like, he doesn't like go back to his own time like immediately, like 20 minutes in or anything. Like, nope, this is a medieval movie about him being trapped here.
It doesn't back out, and I appreciate that.
Yeah,
like, most sequels would probably back out of a situation. Like, I remember me and William were talking before we started recording about the Halloween movies, and how like the end. Like, I remember like the ending of Halloween 4 ends with a character killing somebody, and the thought process is that they're possessed. But then at the start of Halloween 5, they immediately backtrack that, and it's not a possession. It was just oops, something happened. Like, so like a lot of the time, like, that's just so frustrating. But here, like, no, it's like he's back in medieval times. Okay. Like, they really go for that.
I mean, if you want to talk about Halloween and not committing, the last 20 minutes of Halloween ends.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah. But it's just like, in the middle of this movie, you gotta stop and think, like, how did we get to this point? Like, based on just the first movie. Like, I would never expect this to be the trajectory of the series. But
I know,
that's
what makes it awesome.
Yeah, like, absolutely.
And it does work. Like, that's another tricky thing, is like, just because you end up in a weird situation that's like you wouldn't have predicted, like, doesn't necessarily mean that it's funny, but like that's what makes it work. Like, it actually does work. Like, Ash being in medieval times sounds stupid, but like they kind of know that, and they're making it as entertaining as they can. Like, that's the part that makes it good.
It was a smart idea to back off of the horror elements to lean into just action comedy. There still are horror elements, but they're also blend well with the fantasy elements, because like you see all the skeleton warriors. That is a horror trope, but it's also a fantasy trope, so it works.
Yeah, that's one thing I definitely noticed, is like, you know, with the first two, you have these set characters, and then they all die except for Ash. Whereas like here, nobody really dies in this one. Like, you have a set amount of characters. Like, you got the king, you got Sheila, you got the wise man, played by Ian Abercrombie. Fun fact, he was on Seinfeld, and he was the replacement voice actor for Palpatine in the Clone Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Actually. Yeah, so, and he did that until, like, his death in 2012. In any case, like, they all survive. Like, they're all there at the end with Ash anyway. So, and I feel like at that point, like, because, like I was saying, like, each movie is kind of an evolution of the last one. So, like we kind of get it at this point. Like, characters may die, they may not die. So they're just like, you know what, let's just keep these characters around, because that's not what this movie is about.
And because
it's
it
not
doesn't
a straight-up
matter
horror
that much
movie.
either, since he's going back to his own time at the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the girl survives, but it doesn't matter because, like, Ash isn't staying there anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So he still doesn't get the girl.
Right.
She doesn't die. It's just that it doesn't matter that she's still alive because he has to leave.
That's one of the interesting things I liked about this movie. How, like, she doesn't like him at first, and then like, there's that scene where, like, he's surrounded by all the women, and he's, like, eating the grapes and the chicken leg, and, like, she comes over to be like, I hope you'll forgive me, and he's like, first you want to kill me, now you want to kiss me. Blow. It's such a good subversion of that, where it's not just like, oh, the man and the woman have to be together. It's like, he's just like, you know what, I'm not interested, get out of here.
Yeah.
And, you know, it works both ways too, because it's like, on the one hand, it doesn't matter, I'm going back to my own time, so shove off. On the other hand, it doesn't matter because I'm going back to my own time, let's fuck.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Give me some sugar, baby.
Give me some sugar, baby. Oh, so good.
And, like, you brought up that the one guy was, like, the voice actor for Palpatine. Another more obvious sci-fi connection is, of course, the Klaatu, Verad, and Nikto. Straight up just from Forbidden Planet.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. So I remember when was it Forbidden Planet,
Yeah.
or was it How the Earth Stood Still?
Oh, no, it was How the Earth Stood Still. Forbidden Planet is Robbie the Robot.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
right.
Because I watched that. What was it? It was like, I don't remember when I watched that, but I watched that movie within the past year. And when they said those words, I'm just like, oh, word? Like, that's from Army of Darkness. And then I'm like, oh, Sam Raimi, you motherfucker. You just took the line from a science fiction movie and put it in this movie as a spell.
Klaatu, Verada, Necktie.
Necktie. It's an N-word, for sure.
Don't tell Elon that.
Yeah. Oh man.
Also, one of my favorite aspects. So, like, there's that scene when he's in the windmill and he just randomly just throws a piece of a mirror on the floor, and, like, all these tiny ashes start, like, coming out and just, like, totally fucking with him.
It's like the inverse
so
of the
great.
scene from Evil Dead 2 where, like, he looks in the mirror and has himself pull himself in. It's like, you expect that to happen in this one, but Ash is smart now, he breaks the mirror. So instead now a bunch of small Ashes come out and we do Gulliver's Travels for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's one step forward, two steps back with him.
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah.
where they bury the fake Ash, right?
They do.
What-
So
yeah.
yeah.
So it's
So,
like-
so obviously one of the little ashes, like, he
Yeah, he
swallows him
it, and
accidentally.
then it grows into a new Ash.
Which
God.
like, it's really funny, that scene where, like, you can definitely tell it's just obviously a head that they put on Bruce Campbell's shoulder.
Yeah.
And then there's like an interesting shot. So, like, then they're separate, and then Ash shoots him naturally. And there's a shot where, like, he's, like, dragging evil Ash, and you can tell, like, the guy being dragged is Bruce Campbell with, like, makeup all over his face. But, like, the guy who's supposed to be the real Ash dragging him, if you pay attention, it's not Bruce Campbell, it's some guy who looks like Bruce Campbell. Like, and obviously with the scene where, like, all the little tiny ashes are running around, like, some of them are actually Bruce Campbell, and some of them are so obviously not Bruce Campbell. Like,
Fools who capture their stunt doubles.
yeah, it's literally just, yeah, literally Spaceballs.
Well, like, the reason I'm asking, because, like, they bury him, he puts the grave on the evil Ash, right?
Yes.
So is the implication that, like, the guy who comes back to life later is supposed to be evil Ash, or is it just unrelated?
Well, so they buried evil Ash, and then, yeah, well, when they... Oh, because the main villain, yeah, that's Bruce Campbell, so that's supposed to be Evil
Okay,
Ash.
yeah, because like when he talks to Sheila the first time, the first thing he says to her is, "Give me some sugar, baby," which is like, okay, I see where you're going here.
Oh, I actually never noticed that. Wow.
Oh, so you guys didn't know that was supposed to be Bruce Campbell in that makeup?
Well, to be fair, it's been like so many years since I've actually seen the movie.
Okay, yeah, no, like that's literally that's what that is. So like, yeah, he shoots Evil Ash, he dismembers him, he buries him, and then stuff goes wrong, and then lightning strikes that grave, and like that's when that guy forms. Like that's Evil Ash. He's just been decomposing for 5 minutes, but like now he looks like that.
Wow.
Like I caught that
never
when
noticed that.
because like I saw the grave, like isn't that where he buried Evil Ash? Because Army of Darkness was the one that I remembered the least about when I was doing these rewatches.
Okay.
So like, okay, I see that, and like, of course, the first thing he says when he gets going is, "Give me some sugar, baby," which, of course, Ash just said 20 minutes ago to Sheila.
Yeah, no, that's Bruce Campbell as the Army General. That's Evil Ash and all that makeup.
And it also
that's interesting that you guys didn't know that.
Yeah. I did kind of notice, like, he had very, like, Bruce Campbell-ish, like, mannerisms on this watch.
Yes.
And I was like, I wonder if that's him. But, like, even then, I didn't check afterwards, and I also didn't make the connection that was Evil Ash that just got buried, like, 5 minutes ago. I thought Bruce Campbell was just playing a completely different character as the villain, maybe. But, wow.
Okay.
Yeah, that's wild. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of the Army, like, I just love the skeletons, how they're so obviously just being puppeted around, and they're just like, me lord, we're here to stab the immortals.
Yeah, the stop motion effects are so good.
If Jason and the Argonauts was a comedy.
Yeah, one of my favorite skeletons is when Evil Ash is like walking through the graveyard, and he just slaps one of them on the head, and one of them goes, "Thank you, sir."
When Ash has his fucking Deathmobile and just mowing all the skeletons down and just walk into it.
Yeah, they're just standing there because they're just like they're just propped right there, and the windmill just slices them up.
The dragon from Don Quixote is coming alive.
Yeah. This movie is so goofy, like and I like that. I like that it's embracing the goofiness. Like at this point, you might as well like. How many possessed deadites are in this movie? I think it's like the one in the Sarlacc pit at the beginning, like when they throw. Yeah,
because there's the first one that's just already there, and then like after he kills her, there's a second one that just bursts out of a wall somewhere.
Oh yeah, like when he's like eating the grapes with the women in that scene, someone's possessed as well.
That too.
Like,
okay.
You shall never retrieve the Necronomicon.
And then she faints, and then it's just, and then I love that line where he's like, "It's a trick. Get an axe."
Yeah.
It's a trick. Send no reply.
Yeah. Again, he's like so ultra capable at this point. It's just so awesome to see.
Even though in canon it's been like 2 days.
Yeah.
Yo, she bitch, let's go.
I like how the most technologically advanced man in the world right now is just a chemistry 101 student.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That's like you know what? It occurred to me because I'm just like, he opens up his trunk and he has the chemistry 101 in there, and I'm like, why does he have a college textbook? It's like, oh, he's in college, right? Like you forget because it's been 10 years since the first movie.
But like, it's not even anything all that impressive. It's Chem 101.
Yeah, but again, like it's just a random textbook in his trunk. It's like, oh, great, he's a college kid. I forgot. Because he just looks like a man now, because he is.
It's been 10 years.
It's been 10 years. So, but I mean, no. And of course, he's working at S-Mart. He's just like some kid working at some stupid store.
I like how no one
S-Mart.
questions the robot hand either.
Yeah, oh yeah, he just comes back and he just has a robot hand.
No one asks about it either. It's like, what's the story of that hand?
You know what? I will admit this time around, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Just because it's attached to him, like, how is it moving? But you don't think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, the chainsaw doesn't even work in that regard because you have to keep holding it down, but that doesn't happen.
You have to press the trigger in order to like have it work, but
it doesn't matter.
It's a movie.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Have fun.
Cool.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I think Ash vs. Evil Dead actually kind of explains it because like the guy worked on it a little more. Because I think at the beginning of that show, he just says like a metal hand that's just eternally in like a gripping pose, and like that first episode ends with like, I I think his name is Pablo, I think, makes a new hand that actually like has like the proper veins and stuff to move.
Okay, interesting. I mean, I guess we never really questioned why Luke Skywalker could move his hand. That's sci-fi stuff.
Yeah.
They were just like, space stuff.
At least in that it's a TV series, so you actually have the time to explain that, and also that takes place in like 2013 or something. So sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then prosthetics have come a long way, like in real life. So yeah.
Plus, Ash has to kill a demon right now, so who cares?
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're not here for the scientific evaluation of Evil Dead movies. Like we're here to watch Ash say boomstick.
Yeah,
and he does.
You primitive screwheads! This is my boomstick.
My boomstick.
Friday, that's smart. Shop smart. Shop that's smart. Who are you?
I love
I'm
that.
Ash. Housewares. So good. And all these medieval people just have no idea what the hell he's talking about.
Yeah.
It's just like the evolution to him being an action hero is just incredible. You get the iconic shot of him jumping up in the air to connect the chainsaw. Which, why did they even let that guy throw the chainsaw in there?
I know, but it's a great shot of him just being like, chainsaw.
It's there because it needs to be there and it looks cool. So here you go. Yeah. We need it.
Yep.
Yeah. And he chops off the Deadite's hand and it like goes flying and it like suction cups onto like that one guy's mouth. Like, and
everyone's just having a great time.
Yeah, now people are like cheering him on. It's like, okay, sure. Well, I guess it's like that scene in Shrek when like everyone's booing him, but then like when he starts beating up all the knights, then they're like, "Oh, we're into this now."
The chair, give him the chair.
So when's Shrek coming into the series?
Oh, you know they would do that at some point.
Now, Donkey, this is my boomstick.
I'm surprised. Do you think Shrek made any Army of Darkness references, or they probably didn't?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah,
I feel like at most they would just say, like, Screwhead or something.
Yeah, probably. Okay. I don't know. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to say about Army of Darkness?
It's just, like, it probably had, I think it had the biggest budget, so it's just the biggest one. Like, it's called Army of Darkness. It's a literal army.
Well, the funny thing about it, having a bigger budget, like, its budget is only $11 million. But, like, that would be the biggest budget out of all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it still probably made a lot
really
more,
makes
too.
The most of that budget.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm, like, so impressed with, like, all the effects in the final battle. Like, all the stop-motion skeletons running around. And just, like, the castle set. Like, all of it just looks really, really cool.
It looks really cool, and it looks really quaint. Like, it doesn't lose that charm that the first movie had. Like, it definitely does not look like it's all real. Like, you know, a similar battle scene like this would be like Lord of the Rings. Like, all that stuff looks genuinely legit.
Yeah, like, this isn't comparable to that, but just,
That's also
on
the
level of this franchise, it's like a step up in terms of, like,
all the
effects and everything. Up. And it's just really neat to see.
And if you want to talk about Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson, at the very moment that this movie was being made, was doing, like, Dead Alive and like, Bad Taste.
Right, so...
So he was on, like, where... Peter Jackson was where Sam Raimi was 10 years prior at this point.
Yeah, so he was on his way. Which,
an unrelated thing, like, to talk about Peter Jackson real quick, you know what got him in, like, the door for New Line to be able to do Lord of the Rings eventually? He wrote a screenplay for what would eventually be the 6th Nightmare on Elm Street film. It went unused, but what he wrote, the brass and New Line liked, so they kept in contact with him. And that's what eventually got him in the door there to do Lord of the Rings later.
I mean, when you look at Bad Taste and you think, like, oh, this guy eventually made Lord of the Rings, you're just, like, crazy.
You look at Meet the Feebles and say...
How did he do that? I mean, you could say the same thing. You look at Evil Dead, you look at The Evil Dead, and then you say this guy eventually went on to make Spider-Man. So
you look at you look at Bruce Campbell fighting his own hand in Evil Dead 2, like, damn, and this is the same guy who would play Pizza Papa in Multiverse of Madness.
Pizza Papa always gets paid.
A movie in which he fights his own hand. Wait a minute.
Hey.
Yeah, wait a minute. Sam Raimi, you hack.
Well, he did hack it off.
That's true.
True.
He did. In any case, this steelbook that I got from Shout Factory, or Scream Factory, which is really funny that Scream Factory is their horror associate or whatever.
Yeah, it's the same company. It's just the label they put it under.
I know, yeah. So in any case, this is an awesome steelbook. It looked great in 4K. I'm keeping this movie. Can't wait to watch all the other different versions of this movie on the other discs. But for now, I watched the theatrical cut because that's the one I'm more familiar with, and it looked great, so it's a keeper.
Yeah, I don't know what the differences in the other versions are, because you telling me that was like the first time I heard like, oh, there's an international cut. What's the difference?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
As far as like alternate versions, it's like to go back to Evil Dead 1 quick. It gave me the option for both aspect ratios, so I watched that one in 4 free because I figured, well, that's what it was made as.
Right, exactly.
Evil Dead 2, I don't think gave me any options because it just is the movie. Because I don't know if there were any alternate versions of Evil Dead 2. Do you know if there were any?
I feel like maybe I made it up, but like I don't think so. I think the version that we have, or the version that most people know, is the version that we have. Like, I don't think there is another version of Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, I think this just is. Maybe there's like a censored version like Britain or Australia, but why would you want that?
Yeah.
Well, why? Cringe.
A quick thing that they just go back to like the very first movie is that like originally it was going to be called Book of the Dead, but it got changed because the people who distributed the first movie was the same production company, the same distribution company that distributed Night of the Living Dead, which was another low budget horror movie that became a very iconic thing. And they actually said, we'll take this movie, but we just got to make one change, and then they called it The Evil Dead.
I kind of prefer the title of Evil Dead because I think it's just so funny. Like, what does that mean? The Evil Dead. It's so basic and plain, but like, it's so goofy. Yeah, Book of the Dead, sure, but I don't know, Evil Dead just sounds funnier to me.
Yeah.
So, and this is a funny series, so I kind of prefer that.
You know what else is funny, though, with the Book of the Dead? I mentioned this to you before we recorded, but... So, fun fact. Okay, so Jason Goes to Hell. That's the weird Friday the 13th, where like Jason is apparently an evil demon worm that body swaps with everybody. So at one point, the people trying to stop him find both the Necronomicon and the weird dagger thing on like a table somewhere. They just make a quick cameo, and the reason they're there is because they were friends with some of the people that worked on the movies, so they just like put them there as a cameo. But it results in the implication that the Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash comics would later confirm is that when Jason died in the lake the first time, his mother used the Necronomicon to bring him back to life. So Jason is effectively a Deadite. And I think they actually used the dagger to help stop Jason in the end of that movie. And yeah,
that's interesting. So it's kind of like how in Predator 2 you see like an alien, you see like a xenomorph skull in the background, and then that eventually led to like the Alien versus Predator franchise.
None of the movies actually do anything with that. It's just like in the comics at that point, because originally the idea for the sequel to Freddy vs. Jason was going to be Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash. That film fell through, but they used like the screenplay to turn into a comic. And then that comic got a sequel comic, in which case at one point Freddy uses the Necronomicon on Jason to bring him back to his prime self, because by that point Jason is beat the fuck up and like falling apart. So Jason gets brought back to his prime, and he has a nice flowing head of hair, like 80s rock star hair, and the phrase Freddy uses to do that is Klaatu Barada Nikto, and then Freddy becomes president. He addresses the American public saying, "It's time for my State of the Nightmare address. I'm instituting a new program. No child left alive." So then so Ash Williams then has to lead a raid on the White House with all the survivors from both Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street to stop Freddy and Jason.
This sounds like an awesome comic series. I need to read it now.
Yeah, that sounds incredible.
That's awesome.
And like Jason gets to say his first words.
Oh, what are they?
Die.
Nice.
You know what? That does not surprise me. Okay, do you have anything else you wanted to say? Because I was going to start the wrap up.
Do you know about Evil Dead the Musical?
Ooh, I do not.
I don't want to.
It was like an indie musical back in like the late 2000s. I've known about it for a while. I think Bruce Campbell like like endorsed it. He wasn't involved with it, but he was like endorsed it later on. And
Okay.
it sure is something. One of the most iconic songs is "What the fuck was that?" Where like it's Ash and Scott just trying to rationalize what the hell just happened to Linda and other girl.
All right, you know what?
Nice.
You really turned me around on this, actually.
There's like a big dance number called "Do the Necronomicon." The final number in the show is called "Blew That Bitch Away" when he's like at S-Mart at the end because it recreates that scene from Army of Darkness.
Okay.
And like the final instrumental roll call scene, and at the very end, after everyone does a roll call, Ash steps forward and just says, "Groovy," and that's the end.
Nice.
Oh my god. All right, yeah, you actually really turned me around on this.
I don't remember
now.
too much about it, but like I just remember those key songs.
No, that's awesome.
So,
look,
do you
convinced
screwheads
me.
believe I can fight Kandarian demons now?
Well, I'm convinced.
What the fuck was that? It's the Evil Dead!
All right. I think we should wrap it up. We've been going for over an hour now, so.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's okay, because you know what? We had a lot to say. I think we said what we could. Thank you guys for coming on the podcast.
Again.
William, yeah, again, this is the second time.
Yeah.
William, shout out what stuff you want to shout out.
The part 6 of the BoJack review me and James are doing should be out soon. And after that, we haven't really talked about it publicly, but we are going to do like a supercut of all of them together. And just to force you guys to watch it, there's going to be new stuff in the supercut. So have fun watching all 6 of them again, motherfucker.
Haha, it's the perfect scheme.
Give us your
scheme.
fucking money.
Yeah.
Okay, James, shout out your stuff if you want.
Yeah. You can find me at Schaffrillas Productions and whatnot. Check out Space Chris 7 because I stream with Chris and the gang on Sundays and Mondays. And yeah.
Sunday, Monday, Sea-King.
Woo, Seeking. Yeah, I guess that's about it.
Channel links in the description, probably.
Yeah, channel links in the description, definitely.
Yeah.
If I get to them. No, I'll get to them. I usually am pretty good at that. All right. Well, thank you guys for coming on the podcast, and thank you all out there, the audience, for listening to us ramble about the Evil Dead trilogy. As far as I'm concerned, these are the only Evil Dead movies to ever exist. We're not... Okay, thank you all. Bye. Hail to the king, baby.
Mario.
Yeah.